Hello and welcome to Movie Beaters with the Farx Brothers. I'm Kirk.
I'm Kyle.
And we're here with Alison Guessou, producer, writer, and director of Out of Time. We're gonna be talking about it non-spoiler.
I got really personal in the interview section, Allison, and didn't ask you about any of the questions related to your shorts and web series, so I hope it's okay I interweave some of those into this Thank you. Consent is important. I teased the audience with a controversial question. You don't seem too nervous. So are you aware of the recent kerfuffle in we'll call it the Minnesota, over the Explore Minnesota? I guess it started at a town hall. I would be interested to hear what you have heard about it, and I will fill in any details I feel the audience would need to know for context. Is that fair?
Yeah, fair enough.
Cool. Thanks for being willing to talk about it. Some people are like, I don't want to talk about it. And totally fair. But, you know, people talking about it, we've gotten different opinions, and we're curious to hear more.
So the long short of what I know about it is that, the plus sides, we have a film commission with the goal to, bring business, as it was described, into Minnesota. Where I would probably say negative and challenge comes is everyone who's here as well, what about those of us in Minnesota? And as we kind of briefly talked about in the last segment, we're a struggling industry right now. There's a huge knowledge gap. We haven't had a lot of, if you're looking for great paid work, it's in commercials. When it comes to narrative type content and potentially documentary, grants is kind of where you live, or, out of pocket. And so debate was over the rebate minimum, because it has been set to $1 million. And knowing a lot of how, I guess, filmmakers, especially those who are independent here, work, we may not all have access to $1 million to be able to make that mark.
You don't have $1 million?
I wish I did. I've tried to play the lottery a couple times, but it still hasn't worked. So
don't do the lottery; it never works. I mean, for somebody that does, legally speaking, don't come after me. I just have a lottery, but
I don't get come after you.
We'd love you as a sponsor.
Yeah, sponsor us, please.
Yeah.
For $1 million.
You write $1 million down. Yeah.
We'll start lower. Sorry, Allison.
So it's kind of like this chicken and egg thing, where it's like, we get that you want to bring in the business, but how do you make sure that we stay ready if we're not working? And how do we make sure we stay working if we don't have the funds, or at least a means to relieve us of, putting into our economy? So it did feel very much outsider focused as opposed to internally focused. Also, there were comparisons made to different markets as to how they conduct their rebate program. And points were made that some even go as low as, $25,000, $10,000. Which is a little bit more attainable for somebody to beg their family and friends to scrap something together to then hopefully make something back. But again, there was some pushback from the board saying, hey, we need to go for the big bucks. And there wasn't really a clear reason as to how that's beneficial. We get that it brings money, but then there really wasn't a sense of the strategy. There wasn't really a clear explanation of the strategy behind that. Let me put it that way. So that's my take on what happened.
I'd yes and you by saying that if it were, 1/5 of what if it went from $1 million to $200,000, let's say you had 5 $200,000 projects, the gaffer on a $200,000 project and the gaffer on a $1 million project probably aren't getting paid that much differently, I would imagine.
That's a great question. I don't know that answer.
No.
Oh, that's not a question.
No, I'm pretty sure that's true.
Okay.
The point is that if if a pool of gaffers got 5 shots at movies instead of one shot at one big one,
exactly.
That's even if you got paid double on the $1 million one, there's still
the consistency of the other one. And I should leave out, but the Upper Midwest Film Office, UMFO, yes. So they currently do, I think, 10,000 minimum, and they've had quite a few, I think, Hallmark type movies made up north. And I know, I don't know if this is related or not, but I do know, Charlize Theron has been up north too filming. So, they've had Hollywood and they've had more or less local. So they have a formula, And I think people are just confused as to if they can do it, why can't we?
Yeah, brother?
No, I think that's a fair point. I want to say the solution is easy, but I don't know if people want to actually put in the legwork to make it, sustainable here.
Oh, yeah, sure. He's the pessimist. I'm the optimist. Yeah. Let me pivot to talking about Out of Time, which is a sci-fi drama. Is that the correct way to?
Yeah, I call it that.
Okay.
I was really hoping somebody would call it sci-fi because I was like, I wrote it with the intention of it being very like sci-fi, but I know people think it's more. I feel like people think when you say sci-fi, they think Star Trek, Star Wars, and don't think about even the fictional side of science.
Do you want to explain why I'll bring it back to the topic we were just talking about, but why is yours science fiction?
Yes, so I would classify Out of Time as science fiction because when I wrote it, it was based off on a fictional disease, and the events in which it happened at the time was supposed to be very fictional. So when I wrote Out of Time, it was a pandemic-heavy story with us unfurling into a pandemic. But with the intention to at the time was to film it in 2020, but then the pandemic happened. And before I say that though, I had given a few family members to read it for me and just to give a sense of, okay, am I at least a little bit closer to the truth? Like I get that it's not like real, but am I like a little bit closer to the truth in terms of how the rollout for vaccines are happening, the lockdowns are happening and things like that. And I got a lot of notes like, this is very rushed. I wouldn't say this, that. So that's where for me the science fiction comes in. But then 2020 happened, and I felt like a lot of the things that I wrote about kind of did happen. So I don't even know if it's science fiction anymore or if it's just drama now.
So you have family members that you mentioned that for folks that immigrate, it's like, oh, you got to be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer. So you have family members that are doctors. Yes. So
one is, I believe, a medical researcher.
Okay. Yeah.
So they do the whole vaccine research type stuff. So it was helpful to get their insight on it because again, I had a segment on there at the time of the whole vaccination and unfurling, like race for the cure kind of thing. And then another one also really had been in neuroscience.
Okay.
And could understand this, again, disease that was kind of a brain impacting disease at the time, and had some details in there that try to figure out, keep it close to the truth.
Okay, that's very cool. What when you started that process, I'll bring it back to the previous topic. What kind of budget did you have in mind? You don't need to give me a number like 4 figures.
Oh, no,
figures.
I can tell you, I was like, my dream was to be like, let me try and make this for $250,000, knowing very well I could not be able to do that.
Okay.
But I was like, hey, if I could talk to 1-2 people, in my introverted mind, maybe I could get it done. But no, it did not even hit anywhere close to that.
Was it more or less than a Civic? A Civic is about $20,000.
Well,
No, actually, Civic's about $30,000 now, I think. We were before you got here, dear brother, Mrs. Farx was in the room. We were talking about EVs. Chinese have an EV that's under 10K now.
Wow.
I know. Sorry, I don't want to throw you off, Allison.
I don't want to give so much about the current budget, but I would say,
sure.
I would say something like that.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense for a 90-minute movie that I watched in a movie theater last week, and looked like a movie from everything I know. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I said I would weave in some other things about your so you had some practice budgeting your shorts and then a web series. How much different was budgeting on a web series versus a short?
So when I did the web series, I don't know if I've said this before, but I did it with the intention to practice a longer format of filming, because my web series typically, my short films typically would take like, a weekend to film. And I never really went beyond, no more than 3 days really for those. So when I did the web series, actually I'll say 2 days for most of them, honestly, because I never really did a Friday. It was always like a Saturday, Sunday was when I did my short films. The web series was to see, okay, could I do it in slightly longer, which was just 4 days. It wasn't a lot. And I had written about 40 pages of content with the intention of making them like, 3 to 5 minute episodes. And it ended up coming to about 8 different episodes of that same length. But again, that was kind of like my test to see, do I have the mental fortitude to do a feature? And the web series itself, I wanted to do something lighthearted because I had just lost my father too at the same time, or around that time. So I didn't really want to do anything too heavy. And I just wanted to be around something that made me feel like I could keep moving with the rest of the world. Because I don't know if you guys have lost someone before. It feels like the world should stop when this person is no longer there with you, but the world kept on going, and it was very insulting. That's just how it felt.
Reality moving was insulting you
exactly.
Time marching on.
Exactly. So when I was able to slowly crawl my way out of that funk, I was like, you know what? I'm feeling a little bit like I can do something. And if I maybe keep my mind a little bit busy, maybe it can help me with a version of my healing process. And that's how I did that. But yeah, it's your question was about budgeting, but budgeting for a short, again, my shorts, they really didn't have any money. Like, it was volunteer time for a lot of folks. Except I would say Happy Married After. That one I had written with the goal of applying for the Jerome Foundation grant.
I saw that in the credits. I was going to ask you about the Jerome Foundation.
Yes, and I had planned to film it in October, and my dates were not going to change. That's one thing about me. It's like, once I pick my dates, they do not change. We work towards that. And Jerome ended up delaying when they were going to announce it. So we filmed, and I filmed thinking, okay, that money didn't come through. But I had still made my budget knowing, hey, I'm not going to get this grant. I can't pay you full rate, but I can pay you the stipend for these 2 days. And that's what that was. And it wasn't until maybe like about a week after filming that I got news that I got the grant. So I was like, oh, do I still get to keep the money because I already filmed it? And like, well, are you done with it? I was like, no, I still have to edit it. So like, well, why don't you use it towards that instead? And at the time, the grant, I forget what the title is, but like the grant director was like, also don't forget to pay yourself, because as filmmakers, we always leave ourselves out.
UMFO says that too. I've been to enough of their workshops that I've heard Sherry say that, and it's that is an important part of a budget.
It really is. So so basically, that's what I did. I used a good portion of it to do post-production on Happily Married After, which is a short, and then I quote-unquote paid myself with the rest of it, but that money really went towards the web series and then towards Out of Time. So it was a gift that kept on giving.
Nice.
Yeah.
What was the process? I've never applied for a grant, so I don't know. We've worked with people who do it for a living. Elisa, just so Kirk knows.
Oh.
Elisa's she explained that on the Wicked episode. Linear listeners already know this.
Oh, I didn't know she did it for a living.
Yeah.
That's great.
When she explained her job. Go back to the Wicked episode for linear listeners.
Give it a listen.
Sorry, we like hassling the listeners. How did you find the grant? And what was it like to apply for it?
It was my third time applying for it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm one of those people where it's like, if I hear about a grant that's out there, I try to see if it's something that I can qualify for. And by then I had a couple projects under my belt, because the first time, I think when I applied, maybe I only had 911, and that's not enough of a repository to apply for a lot of the grants that are out there. The second time I had my 2 shorts, but again, I was going into production for my second short, What Marley Didn't Know, but again, didn't get it because it just wasn't enough. Right. But by Happily Married After, I had those 2 projects. I had done some volunteer work. So I felt like I was a little bit more rounded as a filmmaker to be able to say, I have some experience, but I want more. But the process is very, very cumbersome because you have to basically write essays about why you're applying and how it's going to benefit you and make it compelling enough. And I've never been one of those people to like get grants. So when I got it, this was like a really, really lovely surprise, because again, you never think it's going to be you. You think it's going to be the same 10 people all the time. But then, I got the call, and I was really in disbelief that I got it. But from a grant writing process, because again, like I said, I really do apply to everything that's out there. And if I get a grant, if I don't, then maybe next year. I keep a spreadsheet of of like the list of grants and when they're due. And then also I have like a document where I keep track of my answers, so that way most of the grants tend to ask more or less the same question. Yeah. So you just basically take lift and shift, and then you edit it according to fit the answer, just to make it more manageable. But it's really hours at your computer trying to like come up with things.
That was corporate as hell to say lift and shift. Okay, so you project managed. I wanted to ask this in the interview segment. What industries have you predominantly project managed in?
So predominantly web design.
Okay.
But I've done brand engagement, health, and I feel like there's one more that I'm missing. everything in there. Oh, and software as a service.
I've worked a lot in software as a service in my white collar job, so that's where lift and shift came from, isn't it?
Probably.
Okay, that's okay. I did notice a significant turn in tone between your first two shorts, What Marilyn Knew, 911, and It's Not You, your web series, and Happily Married After. Do you keep a Google Calendar with your husband? Like, does he share his with you, and do you share yours with him?
I manage everything.
You what?
I do.
Okay.
Like, he has no clue what's going on. So before he goes out, he's literally like, are we doing something this day? And then I'm like, no, you can do whatever you're thinking about doing. But he has no clue. I keep it for both of us. I send him an invite, and it's like, so that he doesn't forget.
Yeah.
Though most of the time he probably still does forget. But I send it to his personal, I send it to his work email.
Oh, wow.
I do.
Nice. That's okay. Project manager right there.
Yeah.
So he doesn't enter stuff, because my wife and I do the same thing. And when we first started dating, I don't know why I'm telling this.
You did it when you were dating?
What? Yeah.
You did it? Wow.
Because we were destined to get married.
There you go.
See, Kirk, this is how you get a partner and you keep a partner. So I had a reminder in my phone at 6:00 every day to tell her, like, oh, here's what I have in my calendar. And then finally it was just, she's touched by that. It's not I care. I just didn't want to. Well, as the person who has 9-to-5 job and then what I call my 1099 work for Uncle Sam, not just Uncle Sam Jackson, but the tax man, Uncle Sam. It's an essential part of happily marrying until after whatever this time is. Okay, so just that one. What's working with Toussaint like? I've known of him, met him. Was he recommended to you? I saw Haley Jacobson, who I do know very well, was his agent on that project for you.
Yeah, so I had reached out to, I think when I was prepping for Happy Married After, reached out to a casting agent, Toni Trussoni. You might know her.
I've heard the name. We've been told we should have her on. We'd love to.
Amy Casting. She's fantastic. Okay. So she helped me with a lot of the casting for Happy Married After, because from my first my first film really, it was very difficult to find a lot of Black actors. And I feel like, I could be wrong, but I feel like at the time Facebook wasn't as popping yet for like putting out announcements for them to see it. Sure. So I had met Toni through a friend, and she was like, "Yeah, I'll help you find folks," and that's how Toussaint got on. And working with Toussaint, I mean, he's great. Like he's skilled at what he does. You give him direction, he follows, and it makes the whole acting process, the whole directing and acting process smooth. But I had also indirectly worked with him on David Buchanan's feature film Black, where he was the main character. And so I remember him from there. And so when we're doing casting for Happy Married After, he was one of my, I think, top two people that I wanted to have in that role.
Dave Buchanan I saw in the credits for What Marilyn Knew.
Marilyn didn't know.
Damn it. Sorry.
It's okay.
How did you get it wrong?
Would you have gotten it?
Huh?
Would you have gotten it?
Yeah, I saw it.
I saw it. I would have gotten it. Okay. And that you had Amanda Day in there and John Bruce. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I don't know either of them but by name, and running into them at various community events.
Amanda Day is fantastic. Stellar actress, stellar voice personality. So if you get an opportunity to work with her.
She's in the Pac Northwest now, I think.
Oh, she moved.
This is not where
I know she was like, she's become a nomad almost, like she travels. Because I mean, her work allows her to do that, which is fantastic.
You've mentioned in other places you don't consider yourself an actor, and when you pursued acting, that wasn't as appealing. But I think as a writer and director and producer, there are potential opportunities from when Minnesota starts exporting producers, writers, and directors as much as they export actors. Yeah. Then 911. I know I saw that in a festival and I had questions, but did I see it at Catalyst or did I see it in the Twin Cities? I don't know why I'm asking you where I saw your movie, but I had seen it before. So when I started watching, I was like, I've seen this before.
You might have seen it at I don't think it was at Catalyst. I don't think it ever made it to Catalyst.
It's Not You at Catalyst?
Yes, It's Not You.
Okay, that's where I saw that one.
Yeah.
And then I watched it again recently, like today, I think. I watched some of your movies last night and some of them today.
Do you have a favorite?
Do I have a favorite?
Yeah.
I really like the lead actress in It's Not You.
Oh. And I feel like that was like her first lead role.
Oh.
A lot of the folks on there was like their first time doing so. I think only Jamila, who is what's the character's name? Oh shoot, I don't know.
She's the bad friend.
No, not the bad friend. The bad friend is Ethereal Rose. But almost everybody on there except for Jamila's character, Jamila, was new to acting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil anything. Is Jamila one of the friend candidates?
She's a friend candidate.
Got it. I know exactly who she is now from having watched it again today. I don't know if I know her. She's in the Twin Cities still?
She moved to Chicago. I know, we're losing people.
Well, it could be because of what we opened the segment with, that we're not retaining us. Is she in the industry in Chicago?
Yes. She still acts and all that fun stuff. So I think she went there for opportunity. So I think she's finding it.
Yes. So I'm trying to think if I saw 9. Do you call it 911 or 911? Okay, yeah. There's a TV show called 9-1-1, which came out first. Did they steal from you too?
They absolutely did. You can peel out on IMDb. Just kidding. But so it's a challenge. You have to always do when I search for mine. You have to do it like with my name with the production company, because otherwise it's like a million of them in there. Right. So when I had decided to start doing my own projects, I wanted to figure out something that I could not only shoot at least, because I think I only had a day at the time, honestly, shoot in a day. But then it was my first time writing a script, my first time directing, first time more or less doing everything. And I had reached out to my very good friend, Justin Christopher Ide, who is a projectionist of The Walker, a fantastic human being, because I had been on a couple of his projects before. It's like, hey, I want to do this filmmaking thing, but I have no clue what I'm doing. Would you be cool, like, coming along for a ride with me? And he was super ecstatic to be a part of it, and he's really been a part of my projects like since then. But wrote the script with the intention of how do I express how I'm feeling right now in this moment, because if you remember, 2015 was when social media started to show the just the experiences that Black people had with police officers. And around that time too, a lot of Black filmmakers were making basically the same kind of content. You could tell it was heavy on our hearts, because it doesn't make sense that, you're driving home just because your taillight's out, you don't make it home. It's very, very silly stuff that a lot of people would not die for or don't need to be killed for. So 911 was inspired by Philando Castile's untimely death and unfortunately murder. And it was, at the time, again, me trying to be creative, figure out what the world looks like now, where, actually, because it's like a two-scenario thing, right? What would the world look like if, even though the police officers made a mistake, what would happen if they chose to help correct that mistake, versus what happens now, where it's like they plant evidence or pretend they don't know what's going on, or whatever, until the body cam footage comes out and then you realize, oh, they've been put on administrative leave. So that was my, again, first foray into it, because again, it was just one of those topics that was heavy on my heart.
I lived on Lexington when Philando Castile was killed.
Oh, that's horrible.
I learned about it through Facebook because they uploaded the whole the girlfriend went live. I wonder if someone has made a 911 call during the middle of those. It's smart that if you get pulled over by a police officer, check and make sure that the police are in their jurisdiction in wherever you are. I mean, I am not giving any legal advice, just to be clear. Don't get pulled over. That's but yeah, I guess fix your taillights and that is definitely unfortunate. You, I wanted to ask this in the interview segment. You've pitched at Catalyst before, and you pitched a series you mentioned. And was the series the one that was related to the book we talked about in the interview segment?
No, it was related. It was like the Woman King inspiration. It's the one that inspired the Woman King. I'll start saying that. But it's called The Counter Chronicles, and it's basically looking at Africa before colonization. And this is from one of the last great dynasties of the time, called the Shanghai Empire. And it was really supposed to be like my Game of Thrones meets, what else could I compare it to?
You're doing that pitching thing, because what I wanted to ask you about was pitching, and it's like you're supposed. Stop me if you've heard this one. It's like it's the politics of Game of Thrones with the folks of, I don't know, whatever common example you were going to make.
But yeah, so somebody had told me I need to, because I hate doing that, but they're like, you have to do it because it gives people a point of reference. So at Catalyst, I had met a couple of other filmmakers. Like, you got to say it, you got to put roots in there, because that's what white people relate to. That's what they understand. That's what they know. And so, because I remember doing like a trial with some other folks. That, okay, and then when I added roots, it was like, you got the nods. So I was like, okay, all right, I guess
the white nods.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Those are the judges, you know. Who do you get to impress?
Yeah, I guess I've never seen a black judge at any of these.
You know.
I mean, I'm charged with picking judges, so yeah.
You got to relate to your audience, and that's who we have. So
there was a judge of color at Minnesota Film Festival in Duluth, which takes place in the spring versus the fall, as what's called North Star Story Summit is. Now what? I want to get the name.
I know what you said it as such. I don't know, vinegar.
I said it with vinegar.
Yeah, it's like Minnesota. You know, I gotta.
Because it's
mad about it or something.
It's NS cubed.
Oh,
North Star Story Summit. That's
because it's the whole all the festivals that happen here in that window.
Duluth Superior Film Festival. Minnesota Web Fest. I think there's something else, and then I believe Catalyst is still a part of that. I am not a member of any of these organizations. Just showed at all those festivals different things. So what did you like and what did you not like about pitching? And because you've had to do it a lot to get a feature made, for example. So in a very formalized process, maybe I can help guide your answer by saying, what is similar to what the skills that have gotten you to make a feature film? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but like that's like the one time I've pitched ever in my life.
Oh.
I have.
No, again, you've pitched all the time to get people on your projects. To get
That's true. That's true. But sorry, what was your question?
What was similar about the experiences? Because even just now, you kind of gave the answer of, well, I've only pitched this one time that way. But that's not how you do it in Hollywood. You wouldn't be pitching to a room full of people. You'd be pitching to like a couple of people at most.
So yeah, the experience with each of them, when I'm trying to bring on crew or like talent for my films, especially if it's someone that I haven't worked with before, obviously it always starts with the email communication. Saying, here's a log line, here's when I'm trying to do it. If you're interested and available, let me know and let's talk. So if they're interested, then we either do like a video conference or meet for coffee. I love hot chocolate, I don't drink coffee. So meet for that. And then...
Are you anti-caffeine?
No, it doesn't affect me at all.
You just don't like, what? This is news.
I just love sweet things, you know this.
God bless. Because the Moscato. That you said in a different podcast. Yes.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we'd meet, and then I'll tell him, the reason behind why I'm doing it and what my intentions are, and if they have any questions, and just kind of talk it out that way. That's my one-on-one.
You shot your feature mid to end of October in 2022?
Yes.
I'm trying to remember how that fall was. Was it cold?
It was a really great, well, the weeks that I was filming, the gods were on my side because it was beautiful.
Excellent.
Yeah. The only challenge we had obviously was coming out of COVID, so we did have a mini spread attack, and there was a day that we just had to, because I had planned 3 different weekends, so I think I did 2 weeks of 4 days, and then the last week was going to be 3 days, because it was 10 days total. No, my math is off somewhere. My math is off somewhere. But the last is going to be 2 days. The last is going to be 2 days, not 3.
Okay, got it.
But we, after the first week, because some folks were really confident, because I was like, make sure you're wearing your mask, because I was wearing my mask. I was like, make sure you're wearing your mask. And some folks got really confident and decided, you know what, I'm too busy, too hot, not gonna do this. And someone had it, someone brought it on, and it kind of started taking people down. So we had to, the week that I had planned to have it be the second week, we ended up just canceling that entire week and basically pushed everything like a week out. Because I think at the time it was like a 10-day window for just being sure that you're clear.
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the regulation. The regulations at the time was a 10-day window for to retest. So if there was anybody on set who had it, they couldn't come back until they tested negative again. But then I think that break helped because we were more or less kind of the in between, where it's like, okay, as we're getting close to the filming, it gave us the 10-day window, because I was doing again end of the week for all that stuff. So like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Saturday, Sunday, like that. Yeah. So it gave us the window to just clear it out, and then everybody could come back and wrap it up stronger. So I think I ended up doing like maybe I ended up I think 3 days the last week, so that we probably had 1 day short instead of the 4. We probably did a 3 again, something like that, just to kind of make it work out. But it was 10 days total for sure.
I have done a poor job of getting to all my questions in this segment, but I want to wrap it up by arguing about you saying let me see if I have this right. Not a writer by choice?
Yeah.
Could you explain what you mean for the audience by not a writer by choice?
Yeah. So I have ideas. And they got to make it to paper.
Yeah.
But I don't quite have the budget to have somebody do it, So
pay a writer?
Yeah.
Okay.
So therefore, I'm like, well, let me get these ideas out myself and talk to my writer friends and see if they got notes. So that's why I say I'm not a writer by choice.
Okay. Maybe I'm turning to my brother to see if he has any thoughts.
Aren't you the same? I mean, you said...
what the
you said yourself you don't like writing. Right?
No one likes writing, which I believe she has said. You like writing?
Yeah, I like writing stories.
Was it like doing spreadsheets or making a budget for you? Like what is this feeling of joy you have when you're like doing this sort of thing? Are you an introvert? You have to tell me if you're an introvert.
Yeah, like I have to tell you I'm a cop?
Yeah.
No, I'm not an introvert. I classify myself a bit extrovert, yeah.
Okay. But what do you like about, like, explain to us who you classify
putting my
as
ideas and my stories on paper, I think it's not real yet until you actually make it, but it feels a little bit real. It's the story's building up and you have something in your hands,
I'm pivoting my bait to you. Now I see, because this guy over here, we write together, and sometimes it's good to write with your brother. Sometimes he'll say, we're in the middle of finishing a first draft on a second feature, and it's like, it just bothers me that we're not going to make this like in the near future, because we're writing something that there's a bunch of extras that would be under 18, so like that's going to involve coordination.
That's going to be challenging.
Yeah, but I enjoy. You know what? I actually do enjoy that writing process, because we're doing it as a group. There's a third writer, and she was looking to write a genre thing, and we felt we had enough genre bona fides to get into that. We got to talk about the specifics. We got to spoil your movie, and I want to talk very specifically about a lot of things in it, and then we can talk about Paul, Charlotte Marie, Lori, obviously, who recommended you to the podcast, which we would have gotten to you eventually, because I saw Nick and Alan and Ron had you on, so like it's a competition to keep up with all of the guests they've had. But any tease you want to give going into to get people to listen to the spoiler episode if they haven't seen it even?
Oh boy,
that's such a challenge. I
know it's so difficult. I'll say, if you are frustrated about health insurance and the way they treat us, this is a movie for you.
That's a great tease, having seen it. Brother, I throw it to you.
All right, well, join us in our next segment for the spoilers of Out of Time.